The church has a long history of being involved in compassion ministries, both here in the UK and around the world. If you went back 200 years in the UK, you'd see there was no state provision of healthcare, there was no state provision of education, there was no welfare state to provide for the poorest. Prisoners were kept in appalling conditions. What changed that was firstly that the church got involved and started to care for those people who were in those situations. So if you look at the work of Elizabeth Fry on prisons work, you know, she saw the conditions that prisoners were kept in those days, and she went to be with them in that. So she actually stayed overnight in prisons in appalling conditions. She brought friends and people of influence in to that situation to be alongside those people who were suffering in terrible conditions. Likewise, people like William Booth provided for those who were poor, who had no access to the healthcare that they needed, who had no access to the basic provisions of, you know, food and shelter. And so Christians in the UK, people of faith in the UK, have been involved in those kinds of ministries, and also have been influential in putting things right in terms of changing the legislation, changing the way the government worked. So the welfare state that we take for granted now in the UK was brought about partly through the influence of William Booth and Joseph Rowntree, those who said it can't be right that the poorest amongst us have no support. We need to support them, and the welfare state that we know now was brought about almost directly as a consequence of those people and their work. So in the UK, 200 years ago, that was the situation. Right now, in developing nations around the world, it's exactly the same. If you were to go to Africa, you would see that I think 70% of healthcare in your average African nation is provided by the church. If you go to Lesotho, 90% of the primary schools in Lesotho are provided by a church. So only 1 out of 10 by the state. So I think, you know, still that's a reality around the world. The church is doing tremendous work right around the world today to bring justice to those who don't have it.